This morning's class only requires one block and obviously a mat. We're going to start in hero's pose. So this block is portrait. If you needed a brick as well or 2 blocks, by all means, take the opportunity. You want to make sure that you can sit down comfortably and allow your knees to open a little bit. So the feet are pointing backwards, the heels are very much to the outside of the hips, the thighs are pressing together, rolling in. We'll take a moment just to kind of settle the body. It takes a good sort of 40 seconds plus for the body to get over the shock of folding the knees into this tight position. Then we'll take a moment just to breathe, settle, see if we can breathe from the belly and let that come in towards the chest in a nice fluid way. And we'll take some surface stretch, just lifting the arms out in line with the shoulders. We'll bring the right arm across first and lock underneath with the left arm and just draw the shoulder around a little bit. So primarily we're stretching the shoulder blade out, keeping the chest relatively square to the front of the mat. Breathing into the back of the shoulders. And then we'll release, just float the arms back out and cross over the opposite way. We'll float the arms back out and up towards the sky. Just the hands above the shoulders. We'll take a turn towards our left, let the hands come down and over the rear shoulder. So now we're rotating through the spine. We're trying to draw the shoulder blades together this time as well. So there's a little bit of work going on there. We're opening the front of the chest. We'll ease the hands back up towards the sky. Rotate across to the other side. Adjust the shoulders back. Try not to lean back too much. If you can, just have the fingertips on the floor behind you to steady yourself. You could even wrap your arm around towards the opposite hip if you wish. And then we'll come in towards the front end of the mat. Take a little breath. Allow ourselves to walk the hand out to the left. Take that into a side bend, so lifting the right arm up. And bring ourselves back again. Walking the right hand out a little, just to get a little bit more space. And we'll come back up again. Going to move to all fours, so I'm taking the block out. I'm going to place that towards the front of the mat, just the sort of arm's distance away. Stretch the legs out very gently to say hello to the knees again, and then we'll begin around a cat-cow. So when you're ready, bring your knees underneath your hips, hands underneath the shoulders, drawing the chest forwards, shoulders back a little bit, tailbone to the sky. Nice, slow, progressive movement as you exhale out. Lifting the spine towards the sky, seeing how it feels. Just noticing where any tight spots may be from a night's sleep or just from days of being sort of hunched over a little bit. Environmental stress on the body is a real thing that perhaps we're unaware of from a daily basis point of view. That's a little bit of medicine going to do us some good. And then we'll come back into neutral. We'll take the knees wide and allow ourselves to come into child's pose. So the reason for taking the knees wide is that we want to try and keep the spine nice and long. So we're really going to kind of let the chin come down towards the floor rather than tucking the head in. Trying to keep the whole of the spine nice and long. Really relaxing down into the shoulders. There's not a lot of weight in the shoulder joints at this point. And there's more sort of control from the hips and the lower back about how far I'm moving into this. And then we'll lift back up. We'll come back up onto all fours again. This time we're going to bring the left hand under in line with the left knee as I take the left foot out. Take the toes of the right foot back, and we'll drop the heel onto the ground and allow ourselves to open up into a baby side plank. For those that wish to, you can start to lift the rear leg away from the ground and flex the foot towards you and turn the heel up and the toes down a little bit. If you wanted to, you could even add on to this by lifting up onto your fingertips. So 3 variations for one pose. And I'll bring the foot down, bring the hand down. And what we do on one side, we generally repeat on the second side. So the right hand comes in as the knee spins out, or the foot spins out rather. Take the left heel back. Now you'll notice I turn the right knee further out to the side, so it really is getting close to being 90 degrees. Can allow myself to lift the back foot away from the floor again, turn the heel, just feel that starting to pinch a little bit in the outside of the hip. And then again, as we said, if you wish to, fingertipping. And then bringing everything back down to the floor. We'll tuck the toes underneath. Lift the knees just a fraction from the floor. Then send the hips back low and lift gently into down dog. We'll step the feet out a little more if you need to, making sure that the feet are parallel and hip distance apart. We'll then come forwards into a plank. Let the knees come down to the floor, untuck the toes. We're going to sit back down onto the heels. So child's pose for a moment as we breathe in. On the exhale, round the spine back up. Draw yourself into neutral tabletop. Tuck the toes, lift the knees gently, send the hips back low, and then lift up into your down dog. We'll come forwards again as we breathe into plank. Use the knees down to the floor and tuck the toes. Using the exhale to come down. Head to the floor, rounded back. Breath in. Press into the shins, draw the belly in a little bit so we get a little bit of an abdominal crunch. Again, the knees lift just a fraction from the floor. We sit back and we lift into our down dog. A final time into the plank and a final time down into child's pose. Gentle lift of the knees. Into our down dog. We're going to walk the hands to the toes, taking as much of a bend in the knees as you need to first thing in the morning. So the fingers stay on the ground, shoulders, neck are relaxed, shoulders are broad and wide. Soft torso, knees adequately bent, and just giving a little bit of time for those hamstrings to open up. Even with a decent bend in the knees, your calf and hamstrings are going to be stretching and warming up. Try and let gravity draw your body down. Make a little bit of effort to press the hips towards the sky, just as your legs gently start to open up. And then finally, we'll bring the hands onto the hips, keeping that bend in the knees. We'll lengthen the spine out and bring ourselves up upright. We'll take the arms out to the side on the breath in. Bring the palms above the head and exhale down through the floor. We'll take the arms wide again. And coming through. And we'll take a final version of that. Now, we'll bring the toes together, a little bit of a gap for the ankle bones. And as we inhale, we'll come up onto the tippy toes. Bring the hands back down, let the heels come to the floor in time with your hands reaching the hips. Inhale up again. Squeezing the thighs together a little bit. Exhaling down. And the final one of those. We'll change the direction very slightly. Keeping the feet on the floor, we'll take the hands forwards and up. And then press down through the feet. Ease into the gentle back bend. Let the hands to come out to the side as you bring your body back into vertical. And draw the hands forwards again. We're taking into that little back bend. Arms out wide. Final time lifting up. We'll come into some balance work. I'm going to step off of the mat just a little bit. And start to load the weight into my left leg. I'm going to draw the right knee high. Take my hands around the shin and draw the knee towards me. So just taking a moment to steady the standing leg. Try and make that strong, pressing down. Keeping the foot very much on the ground. Now, I have realized I've kind of not left myself enough space here. I'm going to take my left hand out to the side for a bit of balance, which is now going to be in the window. And draw the right hand onto the inside of the thigh. I'm going to lean forward just a little bit to see if I can take hold of the big toe. Draw the knee as high as I can. And then extend it out towards the front of the mat, pushing out through the heel a little bit. Now trying to keep the chest relatively square to the front of the mat and the hips, and the legs are pointing forwards. Last breath in. And we'll bring that foot back down to the floor. Shake out the legs a little bit from side to side. And then focusing again. Taking the weight into the opposite leg. The left knee can now come up. Again, we'll take the hands around the shins. And just take a moment to kind of imprint the feeling of standing steady, hopefully. Now very gently allow yourself to take your right arm out for that little bit of extra balance. Left hand comes in, slowly forwards on an exhale. Draw the knee as high as you can. Slowly extend it out. And press out through the heel a little bit. You might need to draw the shoulders back as well. And belly drawn in. Those hamstrings have not had a chance to really open up too much, so focus on the balance. Don't worry about how straight your leg is. Last breath in. Bring the foot back down to the floor gently. And in my case, step back onto the mat. We'll take a little breath from there and just shake it out. Walking into the front end of the mat. And I have the feet still about hip distance apart. Bring hands in towards the heart. I'm going to soften the knees over the toes. Allow myself to have a little wriggle through the ankles and the feet to start with, and then settle down a little deeper into that chair pose. To help with the balance of the bum going backwards, the hands forwards and lowering down even more, weights more into the heels. And I bring the hands in towards the heart. I'm going to take the left elbow out to the right side. So with the knees slightly wider apart, it kind of changes the dynamic a little bit of the pose. I'll cross over to the other side. I'll come back into the center. Let the hands come to the floor. Into a final standing forward bend. Just pressing down through the feet a little more assertively this time. Drawing the belly and the hips high. And then bring the hands onto the hips, soften the knees, let ourselves lift up. I'll bring the hands in towards the heart as I breathe in. Take a little breath. I'm going to soften the knees over the toes. And on the exhale, I'm going to slide the left foot back into a lunge. Dropping the heel gently in towards the center line of the mat, and we're going to open into Warrior Two. And adjust if you need to, because obviously we don't perfectly land that back foot every time. We'll straighten the front knee from here to prepare for triangle pose, sending the hips a little towards the back of the mat. And on exhale, we'll slowly lengthen out. So the body is doing the lifting. And I'm just going to have the hand on the inside of the shin, low down. You can place it on the shin if you want, but we're not really resting weight into that. We are letting the body do the work. Now we'll soften the knee, bring ourselves back into Warrior Two. Ease the hands up towards the sky and bring them then down to the floor on the inside of the front leg. Walking the fingers around slowly alongside of the mat. We're prepared to fold, but turning the toes in a little more and the heels out. On the exhale, we'll begin to fold at the hips. Right, coming down. Getting a little bit of height with the hips, legs opening out, pressing down evenly through both feet. Final breath here. And we'll let ourselves lift up. We'll move gently around with the fingers towards the front of the mat. So we're back into a lunge. Step forwards. Hands onto the hips. Let ourselves lift. Bring hands in towards the heart again. Take a breath in. Soften the knees over the toes. Going to lean into the left and take the right foot back this time. When you're ready, drop the heel in, ready for your warrior two to open. Adjust if you need to. Straighten the front legs. Send the hips back. Allow yourself to lengthen out again, slow and long. So looking after your back and the leg at the same time as you come into the pose. Now we'll soften the front knee, come back into our warrior two. Bring the hands high. Down onto the inside of the front leg again. Walking the fingers around to the long side. So this time we're going to turn the toes in, heels out, and I'm going to bring the right hand on the floor underneath my heart. Take a twist, draw the left elbow up, and then open the chest and the hands towards the sky. Come back down again. Try and keep the head in line with the body so it feels like you're rotating around an axis point from your pelvis to the crown of your head. Never thought those geometry lessons would ever come in useful. Prove me wrong eventually. We're going to take 3 of these gentle twists. That's 2 to each side. The last pair. And then we'll bring the hands down to the floor. Walk them around towards the front of the mat. Into our lunge. Push off the toes. Into a forward bend. Let yourself hang. And soften the knees. And let ourselves lift up. Bring the hands into the heart again. Take a breath, soften the knees over the toes. We'll send the left foot back again into the lunge. And drop the heel in and open into our warrior two. Once you've adjusted and settled, we'll bring the hands back in towards the heart. Moving into advancing warrior, we'll turn the chest towards the front of the mat. As you lean out over the front thigh, press the left hand forwards, right hand behind, palms to the front and the rear of the mat accordingly. Now we'll lift our way back up into warrior two, straighten the front leg, send the hips back and lengthen through triangle pose. Down we go. Take one breath. Soften the front knee into our warrior two. Inhale, hands high. Down to the front foot, inside of the leg. Walk the hands around to the long side. Take a breath as you turn your toes in and lift your body. Allow yourself to exhale. Fold deep. Inhale back up. Walk the fingers through to the front of the mat. So we're into a strange position here where we can bring the right hand onto the inside of the front leg and take the left hand up towards the sky. So basically extended side angle. From there, exhale your way back up into warrior two, a long lift. Bring the hands high above your heart, turn into a high crescent, spinning on the ball of the back foot. Bring the hands in towards your heart as you lean forwards and step gently to the front of the mat. Bring the hands in towards your heart. Soften the knees over the toes. Take the right foot back. And drop the heel in, open up into your warrior two. Adjust if you need to. Bring the hands in towards your heart. Advancing warrior, we rotate. Lean out and use the exhale to get long in the body. Draw our way back up. Warrior two. Straighten the front leg for triangle pose. Send the hips back and long. One breath here low. Soften the front knee, come back into warrior two. Hands come high, down to the floor on the inside of the front leg. Now walk the fingers round gently, take a breath, turn the toes in. Allow ourselves to exhale down and fold. Inhale on the way back up. Walk the fingers around to the front of the mat. Allow yourself to slowly bring the right hand up into your extended side angle, so the front leg and arm are together. Press down through the front shin to lift into your warrior two. Bring the hands high. Rotate gently towards the front of the mat. There's a little balance point to find. Bring the hands in towards your heart. Lean forwards, push off the toes and step it into the front of the mat. See if you can catch yourself with bent knees. It's a little bit easier to land. Hands by the side of your body as you take a breath. Take hands high and in towards the heart. And exhale gently down to the floor. And take a little breath from there. Allow yourself to just walk the feet together a little bit. So the big toes are touching. There's still a bit of a gap between the ankles. We'll bring the hands onto the back of the calf muscles. And as you exhale, try and pull very gently the calf muscles towards you, which has the effect of bringing you a little closer to your thighs. Any strange feelings in your lower back, do come back out of that. Last breath in. Bring the fingers to the floor. Lift the chest up halfway. Fall back in again. Bring the hands onto the hips, shoulders and elbows back. We'll let ourselves lift up slowly. We'll take the feet out hip distance apart again. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Take a breath in. We'll soften the knees. And we'll take the left foot back into the lunge. Drop the heel in. Open up into our warrior two. Adjust if you need to. Bring the hands in towards your heart. Advancing warrior, we rotate forwards and lengthen out. Inhale it back. Warrior two. Straighten the front leg. Extend over for the triangle pose. And we go. One long breath as we lift the chest. Soften the front knee, come back into your warrior two. Hands come high. Down to the floor we go on the inside. Walking the fingers around alongside of the mat. We'll turn the toes in. Now I'll bring the hands onto the hips and shoulders and elbows. Draw back as we lift up. We'll take the hands behind the back. Interlace the fingers. Draw them down towards the floor. Pull the belly in a little bit. Pubic bone down to the ground. We're going to hinge over, just as we've done before. As we come in, we'll keep the hands and the arms on the back. And once we've leaned over as far as we can, we'll inhale the hands towards the sky and slowly drop them out to that long side of the mat, keeping the shoulders lifted away from your ears. One more breath. And we'll let ourselves come back with hands onto the hips. Lift all the way back up slowly, a slight bend in the knees. Take the hands out wide into a star shape. Turn the feet towards the front of the mat. Lean into warrior two. Take the hands high. Rotate again towards the front of the mat into high crescent. Lean forwards. Push off the back toes. Stand ourselves into the front of the mat. We'll take a little breath here. Hands down by the side of the body. Lots of big muscles being used. Bring the hands back into the heart. We'll soften the knees a little. Take the weight into the left and right leg goes back on the lead. Dropping the heel in. We're going to open into that warrior two. Hands in towards the heart, breath in. Rotate towards the front of the mat. Lengthening out. A little bit of weight in the back foot. Heart wheel your way back into warrior two. Slowly straighten the front leg and lengthen out again. Triangle pose, nice and long. Come down slow, take the breath. Allow yourself to bend the front knee. We come in, warrior two. Float the arms towards the sky. They're going to go down to the inside of the front leg again as we exhale. Walking the fingers around to the long side, we turn the toes in again. Again, we bring the hands onto the hips. Shoulders and elbows back as we lift. I'm going to take the hands behind. This time we're going to see if we can take hold of the elbows of each arm. Draw the belly in and then let ourselves fold all the way down. And draw the shoulders back a little bit away from the ears. Get the belly drawn in, tailbone lifting, feet pressing down easily. Last breath. Let ourselves soften the knees and lift our way back up slowly. Get hands out wide into a star shape. Turn the feet towards the front of the mat. Warrior two. Hands come high. Rotate and spin on the back foot. Hands into the heart. Lean over the front thigh. Push off the back toes. Into the front of the mat. Take the hands high as we breathe in. And in towards the heart. And exhale down to the floor. I'm going to take the block that was a hand's distance out in front and just place that behind the heels, stepping 1 foot at a time onto the corner edges of the block, turning the toes out and letting myself squat down for a bit of a breather. It must be fit. And it's going to bring the elbows and arms onto the inside of those thighs, hands into the heart. Allow the chest to lift a little bit. Really just waiting for the breath to come back. And from here, Hands come forwards. We'll lift the hips high, take the heels off of the block, move it out again, that distance forward, step back gently into down dog. Have a final little lift up. And then come into plank. Let the knees come to the ground and bring your chest to the floor. Make sure that your chin is on the mat. Moving back if you didn't around, land just where you needed to be. We're going to take the hands to the bottom of the ribs. So we're going to come into low cobra, rolling the heels out a little bit, thighs down, toes away. Inhale the chest forwards, following a nice crest line from the tailbone to the crown of your head. So imagine the crescent of a moon, and that's the line that you're trying to follow with your body. And we're also attempting to keep the bottom rib attached to the floor. So these really are low cobras. And breathing in, the tummy expands, helps with the lift. So it's more about getting length than height. We'll take a last lift. And then we'll change that just a little bit. We'll take the hands forwards into a press-up position with the hands out off the mat to the side onto the fingertips. Gecko pose is an exhale, drawing the belly in. And this time we do press into the hands and let the spine lift. Come a little higher. Inhale on the way down. And again, it's about length and just listening to how your back feels. It might take a few rounds to get to where you thought you were possibly going to be able to get to, or you might not get there at all, or you might have been all the way up into sort of the edge of your limit on the very first one. As long as you're taking it gently, listening to your body and reacting to that and saying, okay, that's far enough, and we stay safe. We have to let go of the ego a little bit. A worthy lesson in our yoga practice. And we come up for the last time. And we'll work a little more dynamically through those back muscles by taking the hands now behind the back, interlacing the fingers and drawing them down towards the tailbone. We'll inhale the chest, shoulders, keep the thighs on the floor, heels rolling out as you can. Not as easy as it sounds. Inhaling up. And exhaling back. Inhaling up. And last one. Then we'll take 5 with the chest and the thighs lifting. Trying to keep the legs long and straight. Bring ourselves down again. Inhaling up. Three. 4. And 5. Now from here, we'll bend the left foot, bring that in towards the body. We're going to take the heel in towards the buttock, press the knee away. So the hand is on the bootleg side of the toes. Change that across to the other side. And release now. We'll bring both feet in and see if we can bring the hands down to the ankle bones this time. We're going to come into bow pose. A little bit of wriggling around and bring the thighs back into parallel, heels in towards your bottom. Slowly start to flex your feet. Press the hips down into the floor and thighs. Going to inhale the chest forwards and up, at the same time as pressing the shin towards the back of the mat a little bit, so get some space between the buttocks and the heels. And then once you've done that, we're going to see if we can press the soles of the feet to the sky, trying to keep the knees about the same distance apart as they started, which hopefully was about hip distance. So being aware of where you're taking your knees as you lift up. Sometimes in the urgency of trying to get high, the knees will flare out, so be conscious. You want to keep the thighs as parallel to each other as you can. Last breath in, and then we'll come back down to the floor. And let those feet go. We'll bring the hands underneath the chin just for a moment to wriggle out through the hips, and let that all settle back. We're going to move on to our backs, and now the reason for having the block at the front of the mat becomes more obvious, because we're going to place that underneath the back of the head. So when you're ready, allow yourself to roll over and bring your knees in towards you. Now you want to make sure that the block is under your head, not pressing into your neck or the shoulders. And we'll take the arms out wide to the side, palms up. And walk the feet in towards your bottom and have the feet together. Shimmy the hips over towards your left and let the legs roll down to the right. We're going to try and keep the shoulders on the ground. Bottom leg collapses completely into the floor and the top leg floats to wherever it wants to be. We're going to take this as a very passive stretch, so we're going to try and yield into the body and let it just move where it wants to be. Gently lift the legs back up and move the hips all the way over to the right. The legs come down to the left again. Remember, it's passive. Trying to just let the body succumb to gravity. And we'll bring the knees back up. And return the spine back to the center. We're going to take a little breath from there. Allow ourselves to shimmy the hips towards the left and extend the right leg out down the mat. Now lift your left foot on top of your right thigh. Allow yourself to roll your hips over towards the right. So your bottom leg is now side on. You can flex the foot and send the heel away. And you can bring your right hand on top of your thigh to add a little bit more weight. As you take your foot away from the thigh, allow the shin to follow the line of the mat. So you've got a nice 90-degree bend between your hip and your thigh, and a 90-degree bend between your calf and your knee. Turning the head slightly in the opposite direction, and again trying to keep the shoulders relaxed on the floor. And energetic lower leg. Lengthen out through the heel so that leg is straight. And then we'll bring ourselves back, unravel, realign for a moment. Just as important, taking this little rest as it is doing the pose. And we'll move the hips out again, over to the right. Left leg lengthens out, right foot comes up on top of the thigh. We start to lower ourselves over towards the left. We're going to bring the left hand in. Active, flexed lower leg, stretching out through the heel on the side edge of your foot. And bring the foot back and roll the hips gently through. Again, just wriggle out through the spine. We'll allow the hips to move to the left. This time we're going to draw the knees together and in towards the chest a little bit and keep the feet flexed towards the knees. Going to roll over to the side just as we've done before and try to get the legs to the ground. Now if they don't, you can take the block out from behind your head and just place it underneath the bottom leg so it's actually resting against something. Keeping the thighs pressing together. And on the exhale, we're going to slowly extend the legs out all the way to the right side of the mat. A little giggle there because I actually got one foot resting on the radiator and one foot underneath it, which didn't realize I wasn't going to get both my feet underneath it. Needing another few inches out to the side. Legs are active, pressing out. Try and keep the shoulders relaxed on the ground. Squeezing the thighs together a little bit in this pose. And then to come out of this, I'm going to draw the heels back in, still squeezing the thighs together, and roll myself back up. Ease the feet to the floor, bring myself back into the center. Again, just take a moment. And we'll move the hips out towards the right. Knees come in, squeeze together, feet flex towards the knees. We'll take them over slowly as we exhale. Again, remember, we're going to try and get the bottom leg down to the floor. If it doesn't want to reach, you can move the block underneath, and if you only need it on one side, that's fine. We're trying to keep the thighs together and the shoulders flat to the ground. Slowly exhale both legs out. This time, No radiators to worry about. Now you will notice that one of your legs seems to have got shorter. Uh, don't worry about that. Just squeeze the thighs together very lightly. And push out through the heels. Bring the knees back in. Lift them slowly back up. Feet to the floor. And bring the hips back into alignment. I'm going to let the knees come in towards the body. And just take the hands around the shins very gently. The rock on the spine. Done a lot of work. I'm slowly going to roll onto my right side. Bring the feet to the floor. Let myself roll away from the ground. Spinning towards the front of the mat. I'm going to take the block and just place that underneath where it needs to go. Allow myself to sit up. Legs out in front. Come into Dandasana. So I'm going to flex the feet towards me, squeeze the thighs together a little bit. Lift the chest, roll the shoulders back. Press the sitting bones down, thighs away. And we'll relax. Now we're going to come into sort of a semi-restorative version of a seated forward bend. So I'm going to take the feet out deliberately wide, soles of the feet sort of on the floor, knees are high. I'm going to lean in and I'll just allow the arms to rest on top of the shins or on top of the knees if you're a little bit higher. And let the spine round and the head drop. You'll be here for a minute or so. Going to get that nice stretch down the fascia lines of the spine. Let the shoulders relaxing as well. Breath is a bit compromised. We need to breathe more into the back ribs, so it's a good opportunity to open them up with some long and slow breaths. Lift our way slowly back out of that. We'll take a few minutes in Shavasana from here. So again, I'm going to use the block under my head just so it's easy for me to look at the clock. So if you feel that you wish to join me with a block under the head, you can. Roll the spine gently down to the floor. And the choices are to use your toes to wriggle your feet out to the corner edges of the mat. Or if you feel like your spine and your lower back particularly has done a lot of work and you want to rest that a little more, keep the feet wide and the knees high. Let them come into a TP. I'm going to bring the right hand onto the belly, just a little below the belly button, the left just a little above. So one hand on the heart, one hand on the breath. And close your eyes. Allow yourself to breathe. And we'll begin to wriggle the toes and the fingers. Breathe a little deeper. Allow the wrists and the ankles to begin to move. And allow yourself to stretch out in any way that feels good. And then slide the heels along the floor, one leg at a time towards you. And from there, when the feet are close to your bottom, allow the knees again, one leg at a time, to come to you, so that you can take your hands around the shins for that very gentle hug. We're just going to rock gently. We're still trying to keep the breath very easy. We don't want to be sort of clenching the breath at all, or gritting the teeth in these stretches. I know tempting sometimes, but try to show some restraint for your body and respect, and just let it just have this very moment to come back into the world gently. Roll slowly over towards the right side with the knees in towards the body. The hands come to the floor, and just push away gently as we exhale, gracefully coming back up to a sitting posture. We'll bring the hands in towards our heart. Take a breath. And as we exhale, allow the chin to drop, the belly to draw in, the spine to bow to the floor to seal the practice. Inhaling, we'll lift back up. Eyes open. Namaste. Thanks for joining. See you again soon.